NAGI Sheishiro will never play for bluelock again. That is a fact that is not about to change. But does this mean he will never play football again? No. Does this mean he will never represent Japan again? Also no. However, this does mean that he will not be a part of the bluelock project ever again. Now you are probably wondering what exactly does that mean. You see, bluelock is a project designed to accelerate the birth of a revolutionary striker, for which 300 amateur strikers were taken into a facility under the supervision of Igo Jinpachi. And Igo is the man that will not allow people who have been once eliminated from bluelock to come back ever again. And no, Kunigami's return is not a contradiction to this, as the wildcard system was always a part of bluelock. Igo probably planned for the wildcard from the very beginning, and it was not just incorporated as the players exited and maybe he wanted to keep one of them. But ever since then, there has been no hints towards any such facilitation again. You see, Igo is a man who ratios. He does not get ratioed. But on a more serious note, Igo is a character who has absolute belief in his methods and complete devotion to his faith. He is arguably the most egoistic person we have seen in bluelock. The epitome of the mindset a striker should have. Absolute belief that only they can achieve their goals from their abilities. And Igo will not allow Nagi to come back to bluelock. However, this does not bar NAGI Sheishiro from playing football or from representing Japan in the upcoming Under-20 World Cup. You see, we have examples of people like Oliver Aiku and the whole previous U20 team. These players are not a part of the original 300, and most of them have no intention of even being a striker. Yet they were accepted and recognized by Igo within bluelock. And then you have a player like Izo Shisai, who will most definitely be a part of the U20 tournament, and Igo will use him to his utmost capabilities. This proves that Igo does recognize talent, and that opens up a path for NAGI Sheishiro. You see, Igo is the head of bluelock, but he is also the coach/manager of the Japan U20 team. There are different standards to have your place in both of these programs. With talent, you can represent Japan like Sai or Aiku, but to be accepted within bluelock after getting eliminated is not gonna happen. So for Nagi, it's possible to represent Japan at the world stage if he can prove himself. Now, there are a few ways to go about proving himself. Theory 1. When Nagi was first eliminated in Chapter 298, it was theorized by many that Nagi will have to skip the U20 World Cup and make a comeback with his team that bid 24 million for him in a UCL competition. It was the most popular theory that Nagi will train with his club that we now know is Manchester City itself, and with his new and improved self, we will see Nagi shine again in UCL. And then he will get to join Japan for the Senior World Cup. However, this begs the question, are we getting a UCL arc in bluelock? It was mentioned by Sai Itoshi, who is one of the fan favorite characters and overall one of the best and most influential characters in bluelock, that it is his dream to win the UCL. That makes it very likely that we are going to get a UCL competition soon. And in the world of football, the UCL is a very prestigious tournament, and I'm sure that everybody would love to see it. But another more concrete point I want to make is that in the real world, the U20 World Cup takes place every 2 years, whereas the Senior World Cup takes place every 4 years. So after the end of Under-20 World Cup, in which I'm predicting that bluelock will probably lose around the semi-final stages, we will have a full year of no international tournaments, and it would be great to see all the bluelockers join their respective clubs and fight it out in the Champions League. So yeah, we are probably going to get a UCL right after the U20 World Cup. Now this theory has since lost speed as we move on to theory number 2. Since in the latest chapters we have seen that Nagi is looking closer and closer to join the Japan team through the special provision made for the Buretsuda 3. Even though Nagi has declined Buretsuda for now, it is most probable that he will have a moment of realization that will lead him to conclude that he needs to get his hands dirty, and that this is what he needs to do to prove himself and get back to playing football again. So yeah, Nagi will probably join the Buretsuda 3, and if he can find his fire and prove himself, he can continue to represent Japan as Igo does value results over everything. But this does not change the fact that he will not be a part of the bluelock project, but a player in the Japanese team. Now, one last thing I would like to say about this is the bluelock project seems to be on the verge of getting disbanded. The Blue Lockers are about to play the Under-20 World Cup, and pretty soon we might see them joining their respective clubs, which will essentially put a stop to the Blue Lock project as we know it. The boys will be out of the 5-building facility and out in the real world. So yeah, who knows how that future will look and what Ego has planned for. Another last thing is I saw a theory on Reddit that as Nagi was playing his arcade game in the latest chapters, it was seen that Nagi was playing some sort of a fighting game and he kept losing. That is, until he changed characters. In the game he had picked a hero character and lost, but then he switched to a demon type character and won with it. This is definitely some subtle foreshadowing that Nagi will probably take some different path to unleash his new ego and come back as an even more egoistic and maybe even evil character. So yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on this. Will Nagi come back as an antagonist? Will that be an exciting or enjoyable plot twist for you? Let me know in the comments below. Now for the next part of this video, we are going to discuss if Bunny Iglesias is the guy who crushed Sai's dream of becoming the best striker. The popular theory is that Bunny crushed Sai and then transferred to Barca, but from a real life worldview, this is very unlikely. And for this, we are going to have to dive into the history between the clubs of Real Madrid and FC Barcelona. You see, Real and Barca have a deep-seated rivalry between them, which literally stems from a time of oppression and cold wars. Any transfer between the two clubs can happen only under very unusual or extreme circumstances, and when it does happen, it always ends dirty. For example, Luis Figo transferred from Barca to Real in the July of the year 2000, and fans were extremely angry about this. During the next matches, he was not treated well on or off the pitch. He was attacked by whatever the fans could throw onto him, including a pig's head when he went to take a corner for Madrid in the middle of a match. So any transfer between these two is a very noteworthy event and very unlikely to happen in general. In fact, this Luis Figo transfer is the last transfer that took place between the two, and no more players have been traded between these clubs ever since. Now it's possible that Blue Lock follows a different timeline where these clubs are not bloodthirsty rivals, but I don't think that's the case. Blue Lock is probably going to be consistent with real world on this, and that's why it's not plausible that Bunny crushed Sai and then switched clubs. So why then did Sai have that expression in chapter 302? I think it's because Barca and Real played a match, and within that match, Sai was probably crushed completely by Benny. And Sai wants his revenge. That's maybe less exciting, but I do think that is what happened. There's also the theory that Bunny is the younger brother of Luna, but that is a topic for another day. So yeah, what's your guys' opinions on this? And which club do you prefer, Barca or Real? Let me know in the comments below. And since I'm a new channel, please subscribe if you want more theories and more videos on anime and Blue Lock. Thank you.